What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of our Out of the Park 26 series where we're attempting to rebuild the Pittsburgh Pirates. In today's episode, we're going to handle the remainder of the 2026 offseason. Last we left off, we sort of established our team needs and looked ahead to the free agents available to us in the pool. It's been a bit in real life, but no game time has advanced since I last checked in, and we've made some offers to some of those free agents that we'll go over shortly. But before we dive in, I wanted to thank you so much for choosing to watch this series and this video in particular. I really appreciate all the continued support and the views we're getting on this series. I know we take things pretty slow and we get into the details, and some of my decisions might not be the most popular, but I'm trying to keep this grounded and pretty realistic. So just know that I appreciate you watching, and I just wanted to say thanks for all of that. And we'll move on to the actual video now, the actual interesting information. So the plan for today, like I said, we're going to review all the free agent contracts we've offered up until this point. And then shortly we're going to move forward to the winter meetings and the Rule 5 draft. We'll see if there's anyone that piques our interest there. And then we'll look to also participate in the IFA pool this year. International free agency last year, if you tuned in, was definitely one for the ages. And this year we have some heavy restrictions on the types of moves we're going to be able to make. So I don't think it's going to be quite as active. Last year, you can just read here, it says like your team spent, we spent nearly $14 million in IFA money last year, so we're not going to be able to sign anyone this year above $400K, so we're going to have to shop in the bargain section of the IFA pool, but I think we found some good gems there. I'll update you guys once we get closer to that. And then we'll finish out the rest of the offseason. We'll end just at the start of spring training so we can go over our dev lab results, and we'll cut the video there. But all in all, I think it should be pretty exciting. So let's start with the free agency contracts we've offered. Like I said, we're still just at the filing date, but I did go in and sort of evaluate our options here. And so you can see here in the middle the guys we've offered contracts to. First and foremost, Brian Abreu is the guy I have identified as our closer. Ideally, you like the 55 BABIP rating, that sort of sets him apart. Obviously, the big strikeout stuff, the good velocity, good at holding runners. No big injury history. Decent against both sides. He was willing to consider a 2-year, $10 million offer, and that has also, we didn't promise him any sort of role or anything like that. Just a flat $5 million a year deal over the next 2 years to come in to our bullpen. So we like that. Out of the pitchers available, he's definitely at the top of the market in terms of like 55 grade relievers who are relatively young and right-handed with strikeout upside. The other guy we ended up offering, I took a closer look at these 50 grades, and it was actually Matt Brash, who was non-tendered in ARB, most recently playing with Toronto. So in 50 innings with them, the whip is pretty elevated and the FIP is good. The ERA is a little inflated as well. It's like, all of these stats together, I think he can still pitch leverage, even with the control issues. He's not quite as good at holding runners as Abreu is, and the BABIP is slightly lower. But, if he were to have a hot season, I wouldn't be surprised if, he ends up closing games eventually for us. So we decided to offer him just a $2 million deal. No big commitment, just a 1-year deal. He does definitely have some injury history with him back in, real world, 2025. So, he doesn't come without risks, but he definitely has a lot more stuff than anyone in our current bullpen has. And I just generally like him in real life. So I think it would be cool to bring him on board. So hopefully we get a decision from him as well. We did end up offering the minor league deal that I had discussed with Molly Fujimoto. Just him being so young, you love all this movement upside with him. So, we expect the scouting report to come back and his ceiling to come down for sure, but I just didn't want to chance him going anywhere else, so we offered him a minor league deal with a major league option. And same for a couple of other pitchers. First is Leicester Sosa. Leicester? It's kind of a odd name, but big slider, big sinker. You think all of that can be a plus above average, that you like the 55 BABIP. Think he still has a bit of velocity to unlock at just 25 years old. He's never debuted, so I'm not sure, how he found his way into free agency, but, I like everything we see here. And while he may not be major league ready out of the box, I think I had mentioned that I sort of purged our books of all of our minor, AAA, 40-man rostered relievers. So we're kind of looking for new guys that we can bring up and down, and I think Sosa would be an excellent option. And in a similar mold, there's Odanier Mosqueda, Odanier, only 5'10", but he's a lefty with big movement upside. The control is still a little bit lacking, but just totally similar situation, has yet to debut. Could be an outstanding lefty specialist. Just looking for a minor league deal with a major league option, so we felt like that was a smart move for us to make as well. And then, guys, I looked at all the bats available, and I just didn't like anyone. Everyone was either too expensive or too old, and I didn't feel like they felt our time, fit our timeline. So as far as the plan of the DH, I think we're just going to let it play out and kind of see how the market develops. If Nick Castellanos were to linger for an extended period of time, I think he would be the guy I would want to go for on just sort of a 1-year, very low-stakes deal. But as you can see, we don't have a tremendous amount of money available to us, and I'm really trying to push our player development budget as high as I can, so it may not end up working out with him. And, the other guy I'm going to keep my eye on is Ha-Seong Kim, because I do sort of feel that it would be valuable to bring him on in a middle infield backup role. If we have Gonzalez, Peguero, and Ha-Seong Kim as our three guys, splitting time up the middle, I feel pretty good. I feel better about him than Jack Brannigan, I think, but again, it comes down to money. I don't know what we're going to be able to do with all of that. So it's kind of just TBD on the batter front. I did make sort of a preemptive move, if we were to DH Henry Davis full-time, which would be our plan, assuming we don't bring on any batter, we would ideally need some sort of backup catcher. So I gave a minor league deal to Jonah Heim, who brings good defense. It's a minor league deal with a major league option, but the salary is relatively low. And I think he could just be a good clubhouse leader for us. He didn't play a huge volume of games last year, but I think we would just be looking for him to catch every fifth day with Indy. And then Davis is DHing full-time, something like that. I just, if anything were to happen to Indy, it's good to have the option of him. And of the catchers available, I sort of felt like he was the smartest, cheapest move that was, not totally horrendous. So we've offered him a deal as well. So really just some big moves on the back end of our bullpen. I did not end up offering any of the lefties deals. I was looking at players that we currently have, obviously, with Rogers and Barco. And then there are actually a couple of guys who are on our roster who are Rule 5 eligible as lefties that are, pretty interesting. This guy, Magdiel Cotto, I don't think he's totally ready, but should these pitches come along, you're looking at like 3 above average pitches, like fastball, slider, 6'4", 245, like good movement. The potential is there. Like, should he develop just a little bit more? He hasn't played at AAA yet, but he got some run in the development Arizona Fall League this year, and he was really good there. So if we add him to the 40 and he builds on his success, I could see him filling in as a lefty specialist. And the other guy is Jaden Woods, who definitely has some more stuff upside. We think the 70 grade fastball, slider, and 65 grade changeup could be really good. And out of University of Georgia, I kind of like him as a potential lefty specialist. Should he come along, he has played a little bit at AAA, but it did not go particularly well. So I don't think we're gonna protect him on the 40 man just yet. But all that to say, like, I think we have options. Like, should something happen to Rogers or Barco, where we could change things up and make a move. And I think Rogers has improved his stats against righties, so it's feasible he could even factor as a lefty, like non-specialist role. But I think we're just going to hold off. If I do notice anyone lingering as a lefty reliever, I may swoop in and make an offer. But I guess in a similar vein, this guy, Mosqueda, you could argue he's better than like all the guys we just looked at as a lefty. So maybe he's the guy. But those are the initial offers. I'm going to start advancing now, and we can check back in once I have news, maybe at the start of the winter meetings, and then we'll get into the Rule 5 draft. But on the whole, it's going to be a pretty quiet free agency for us, which is I don't think that from a team perspective, I don't think we're quite ready to enter any sort of win now window. I still sort of feel like we're in between, just kind of treading water, which is a frustrating place to be. But, I guess I'm just sort of looking to keep the band back together and get the development that we can get out of everyone. I'm looking and thinking of what are our next moves down the road, and it's we're still stuck with Hayes and and Reynolds for quite a while. It's possible Mullins decides to opt out after this upcoming year. And, I wouldn't totally mind if he did, because we have a lot of young players we're trying to fit in across the lineup. So that could factor in. And then Mitch Keller as well is entering into his final time with us. If he were to honestly have a really strong year, I think this is a trade deadline move we could end up making, just because he's not going to damage us from a popularity standpoint. So if he's able to repeat the strong season and numbers he was able to give us last year, I could see us actually trading him at the deadline. I don't think we're going to trade Skeens. I think we're going to trade him in the off season. If I was looking at, predicting future trade targets, I think Keller would be the clear one, and then Ferguson as well, depending on, what he looks like and how his regression starts to, if maybe he starts to regress, or if he maintains being just on the 1-year deal, makes him an easy target as well. So that was sort of a rambling, I guess, table setting of what to look forward to. But like I said, I'm going to start advancing, and I'll be back with any updates sort of as they roll in. So let's see if we can find a new closer here. Stay tuned. Okay, y'all, wanted to catch you up on some quick news. We're at the start of the winter meetings, and we've kind of just been going back and forth with a lot of the guys we initially tendered contracts to. No one has really committed to signing yet. Matt Brash has come back to us twice now, saying that he likes our offer, but then someone's willing to pay him more. So we've recently upped our deal. We decided to go 2 years with him. I think 2 years at 5.6, not per season, but total. So still just a sub $3 million a year deal. But we're trying to give him a little more term to entice him. So the latest news is that he favors that offer. Everyone else also got back to us here, and they sort of favor what we've offered. Brian Abreu has been really quiet, but this is the first we've heard from him, and we're apparently a front runner. So that's good. We were cleaning up our 40-man, and we ended up waiving Matt Gorski, just because we've tried it with him a couple times at the majors, and it's never quite worked out. But he ended up being claimed by Chicago. I don't think it's that big of a deal. We have other outfielders we can bring up. But we're here at the winter meetings, so expect some news over the coming days, and the Rule 5 draft is here. But I had to come on to update y'all about the draft lottery, because look at this. We have climbed to pole position here. We will have the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft, so this is super exciting news. Paul Skeens is on the way out. We bring on a new number 1 pick. I couldn't be more excited. So we'll definitely have to budget for a big, draft allocation this year. I'm thinking like 15, maybe even $16 million. So this is like crazy to see. We'll have the full board available to us. So, fingers crossed we have some really enticing prospects. But let me keep going here. I'll be back at the Rule 5 draft, and we can kind of review any contract news that happens in the meantime. Okay, guys, we have made it to the Rule 5 draft here. Before we dive in, I'll recap some news, of course, that's come across since we last were together. The winter meetings proceeded. Matt Gorski was indeed claimed, and then shortly after we were announced with the number 1 pick, Brian Abreu decided to join us. So we found our closer, you guys. I'm super hyped for this. 2-year, $5 million each season. Fairly popular player, but he's going to bring the gas and hopefully be a more sustainable option than Jason Adam was for us last year. So really glad we didn't have to fight for his services. We also brought on Lister Sosa, who we ended up adding him to the 40-man because he has, all of his option years available. But you really like the velocity, and you think the stuff can be there. And at 25, I think he's just one of those guys we can bring up and down. I was looking at his history, and funnily enough, he was originally an IFA signing by the Pirates back in 2018. So he's been kind of all over, but he found his way back to us through free agency. So glad to welcome him back. And we also brought in the 22-year-old Molly Fujimoto, who we still just have high scouting accuracy on. His grades have dropped a bit, and I still don't love that he's just a 2-pitch guy, and both of them are just kind of average. But with this movement profile, we'll kind of just see how he develops. I don't know that we'll be banking on him contributing at the majors this season, but I'm glad to have him on just a minor league deal. Of course, he can opt for free agency if he doesn't get promoted, but usually they don't, so hopefully he doesn't. But yeah, the Abreu news was announced, and then the winter meetings came to an end, so we're still waiting on Matt Brash and a couple of our other guys to sign. But let's look ahead to the Rule 5. I've sort of scoped out the pool, and I think there are some interesting options for us available, and we can kind of review those guys and then go through the first couple of picks. But we have the 7th pick overall. I haven't done any of the actual drafting yet, so we'll leave that for on camera to have some drama. But we'll look at the draft pool, and I'll pick out the guys that I've been sort of interested in. So I sort of looked across catchers, infielders, outfielders, and pitchers. We'll start with the outfielders, where I think the most interesting player in the whole draft is, and that would be there are some guys here like Rainer Arias and Zaire Hope who are unprotected, but at just 25 overall, there's no way Zaire Hope is going to contribute. So they're going to get away with unprotecting him, unfortunately. But I think the most interesting guy, and I've sort of denoted all of my choices here with like the little scouting icon, I think Jacob Melton could be really interesting because, he's 26 and he put up a monster season in AAA. Granted it is the PCL, but still, you look at these numbers and you're like, holy cow, he hit almost 300, OPS over 9 with a 134 WRC plus. In the development league, the fall league, he also slugged out quite a bit, 270 with a 775 OPS. So maybe he's turned a corner. His major league numbers from last season were pretty quiet, but only a 13-game sample where, he really just kind of struggled. But maybe he's finally found it here. We only have average scouting accuracy on him, but I'm thinking as just like the fourth outfielder, I would maybe prefer him over guys like G1 Bay and Jorge Barrosa. So I would love if he was available at 7 for us. I think we would, even though he's a lefty bat and we're lefty heavy, I think he would make a nice addition to our outfield. And, should he not be available, we have, other plans to pivot, but other guys that I've sort of marked here as like maybe interesting. One of them is Drew Jones, which out of 35 overall, you're thinking like, oh, he's pretty like far away. But at the same time, in just a brief taste at AAA last year, he was able to OPS close to 900. And at the very least, you think the defense would play pretty much immediately. So if there was any like development where these like push closer to 50, I could see us keeping him, depending on like a nice spring training. But his AA numbers last year were just okay. So he's kind of lower on the priority list, just a 2.3 WAR. I mean, that's good, right? But the WRC plus at just an even 100 isn't anything super amazing. But I just felt like he was interesting at his age. Matt Horvath here as well brings a little more pop, but not quite the center field defense that we would want in a fourth outfielder. But he is a captain, and he brings like tremendous speed off the bench. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough call. I obviously don't love these ratings against righties, so I think that probably removes him from consideration. I just thought he was a little bit interesting. And then Colton Ledbetter is maybe on a similar playing field to Jacob Melton in the sense that he's like pretty much ready. Had a good AA season last year. He played across like multiple levels, like A-ball, high A, and AA. No AAA experience, but at 25, you kind of think it would make sense to just throw him out there. I don't mind the defense in center, even though it's not especially special. But he, somewhat capable against both sides, right? Like even though he's a lefty, he can still get doubles left on left, and the BABIP is pretty good at a 55. But he is a big strikeout risk, so. He's maybe my second favorite option should Melton not be on the board. And then I don't think we have anyone else scouted here down the board, no. But those are the outfielders. Infielders, I'm thinking about like our backup up the middle guy. Right now that would be Jack Brannigan. But maybe we can bring some competition in for him. So I'm looking at Ryan Bliss again. We had looked at him last year, funnily enough, and he had a decent year at AAA, just replacement level. So I'm not like blown away by him. I do like the bat upside, but again, he's pushing 27, so who knows if that comes along. And then you have like good stealing with him as well as an option. But I don't know that he's tremendously better than Brannigan, who is 2 to 3 years younger. So at just a 50 grade on the shortstop defense, I'm not sure with him. But the other guy that's interesting is Cameron Cawley. He's definitely not there in terms of the bat, but I just think having him on the bench would be awesome with this, big infield range and all of that. And if we were to compare him to Brannigan on our current roster, I think we could kind of let them battle it out in spring training to kind of see. Just in terms of their like potential ratings, but also you can look at their current ratings as well. So the BABIP favors Cawley as well as the gap power, but Brannigan brings 10 more whole points of like home run power and 5 more points of I. So it's kind of a toss-up. And then in the long run, you think, it's pretty even, 10 on this side, 10 on this side. So I could see us going with the 23-year-old Cauley just as like a wild card spring training invite. But I don't think we'll pick him first overall. I think we'll pick him in like round 2 or 3. In terms of catching, I was considering like the Jonah Heim offer, and I've kind of cooled on that. I don't know that it makes a ton of sense. And there are 3 intriguing options at the top of the board here. Leo Bernal is the first one, switch hitter from the Cards. You love this defense. And in Double-A last year, he had a tremendous year, 149 WRC plus. Triple-A, not so much, but he's still bringing the defense. Certainly positive player there with big range, good efficiency, good at throwing guys out. So he's under consideration, but I don't think he's my favorite. There's also Will Banfield, who I've used in past simulations with the big defense. 27 years old though, and you're not quite sure the bat's ever going to be there. But for a backup catcher at the MLB level, like, you could do far worse. So he's certainly an option. And then my favorite option is probably this guy, Iverson Gutierrez from the Mets org, just because there's a little more to dream on with the bat, and he's only 21 years old. And sure, the catching defense isn't fully developed, but like as a backup, I don't know that I mind it. And in 19 games at Double-A last year, he was tremendous. He hit over 340, 1100 OPS, 184 WRC plus. So while he might not be like the traditional backup catcher, like good defender type, I think he's intriguing to at least test out. And he's already a plus hitter against lefty, and the righty isn't far off either. It's just 45s across the board. So I do think he could contribute and may very well be our first pick if Melton's not on the board. And then finally, in terms of pitching, I'll show you guys, who are the like top available arms. It's shocking to see Zach Gallen here, but we're not really going to consider him. Tim Herron is someone I'm eyeing as like a potential lefty specialist. Not the best numbers in AAA last year, but his last stint in the MLB was pretty solid. And I'm just looking at his these numbers are sick, and he's not bad against righty either. So I think it would be intriguing to bring him on in a potential bullpen role, and then we can kind of at least let him compete with the guys like Barco and Rogers for opening day lefty specialist. But there are other guys here. It's like Gavin Williams is here, but I'm not super interested in potential starting pitching, and I don't know that we're gonna look to play further down the board too much. It is interesting to see Jonah Tong here, so if I were to go for a starter, I would likely choose him. But the 35 stamina, it's almost as if he's pushing bullpen at this point. But he's never been in the majors. Last year in AAA, kind of had a homer walk issue, like not the most strong stat line here across the board. But we do think there is untapped stuff potential, and at just 23 and a half, obviously he's very good in real life. So he could be interesting, but again, I don't know that we're going to take pitcher. But that's kind of the priority set for now. We'll see how it unfolds here across the first couple picks, and how many of our guys go off the board by the time we're on the clock at pick 7, and then we can kind of decide what to do. But let's get it underway. Let's auto draft for Chicago, and they go with a pitcher that we didn't really have on our radar. Next up is Houston, and they go with Dax Fulton from the Fish. Miami, next up, goes Ryan Gusto. And the Angels will take Jay Allen, who is definitely a plus defender. You could easily have argued for him, being our backup outfielder as well. Okay, we're almost to us. Just a couple more picks. The Athletics will take Zach Gallen. Wow. Interesting. And then Arizona here goes Jonah Tong. So he's unfortunately off the board for us. And oh my gosh, they did him dirty with his facial construction there. But okay. I think the pick is going to be Jacob Melton for us because, I don't love the personality of G1 Bay in our clubhouse. So I'm kind of leaning this, but also I feel like backup catcher is a big need. So who is our backup? If we didn't go Melton, who is our second option? Ledbetter. If we were to compare them. Ledbetter is actually better currently than Melton. And better in potential. Interesting. But Melton's so balanced and his production was so much stronger. Defensively, I think they're pretty similar. Yeah, Melton actually has a much better arm. So he wouldn't be a terrible option. Ledbetter, I mean. Should Melton be unavailable. How are his stats, actually? Okay. Let's go Jacob Melton. We do have a good amount of spots available on our 40-man. I think we're at 37. Yeah, we have room to make 3 picks here. So we can take Melton with our first. So welcome to the team, Jacob Melton. I hope you could know how to play center field, buddy. So yeah, we'll draft him. And then we will auto-draft until our next pick and see what happens. Okay, let's check it out. So, Cameron Cawley goes right after. No, to the Rangers. That's brutal. And Iverson goes as well. Oh my gosh. Our 2 top, next picks go. That is brutal. Okay. So now, should we pivot to the infield, we would be looking at, Brock Wilken is here too. We didn't touch on him. If we're thinking about a DH power righty that we were looking for in free agency, this certainly fits the bill, right? And his production was outrageous in AAA last year. Look at this stat line, 1,000 OPS, 159 WRC plus. So you may think it's a no-brainer, but I'm looking at the contact, the bat-to-ball tool, and I just don't know, you guys. Injury history, 3 injuries last year, none of them major, granted. Let's check out the splits. So he can hit right on right, but he's going to strike out a ton. And then left on left, he's a little better, but the BABIP is, nowhere near as good. And then the eye is there. So, I don't know if he's fully ready, but you could argue with the performance in AAA. And then he was also in the Fall League. So let's look here, where he only hit 200, but he did slug close to 5, and he ended up with an OPS around 800. So, if we were to take him, it would push Davis back to catching platoon with Indy. So I'm just kind of weighing if that's the direction we want to go, or if we want Davis to get full run as the DH. So let's go ahead and compare him to Davis, actually, and see what we have here. So Davis is the clear better hitter, right now, 20, 25. This is a plus 25, and this is only a plus 15, so it's a 10-point differential in Davis's favor. And, should they fully develop as well, it's even across the board, and Davis's profile is so much more balanced, which I think I actually favor. So, I mean, you could argue Davis is actually better, and we would be better off with Indy and his defense behind the dish anyway. So I think I've sort of talked myself off Brock Wilken. Trey Morgan also here, but again, we don't really need lefties, even though I do like him in real life. I just don't think he's a great fit for this team we've currently constructed. And there's also Big Christmas down here, but he's nowhere near the bat he is in real life. So I don't think he's an option for us, unfortunately. So we may end up riding with our current infield depth. So Jack Brannigan actually escapes because I don't know that he's much better than Ryan Bliss, and I would kind of just rather have Brannigan like our own, homegrown guy. And there's no one else here really interesting me. So I think this is where we go catcher, and I'm going back to Leo Bernal just because he's so much younger than Banfield. I think it makes sense to bring him in, and his splits are pretty good, like both sides. He's actually a little better against lefty, it looks like. So I like him, and it also, hurts our division rival Cards. So I think Bernal will be the pick, and then we can look at pitching next. And so, what this means, it'll, we'll remove our offer for Jonah Heim, and we'll roll 3 catchers in the lineup next year. But really, Davis is just a DH, so Bernal will be primary backup catcher. So boom, there we go. Let's auto draft to our next pick. Ooh, we actually lose a player, Puyu Chen, who I was aware of. He was at AAA for us, and the numbers weren't amazing. Pretty good with the walks, but was kind of just getting hit a bit. And he's definitely good. I just wasn't concerned with protecting him because all of his pitches are 40 grade. And it just felt like there were smarter protections to make. So didn't really feel compelled to protect him. If we continue the draft here, yes, we are back on the clock, and we'll see who went here. So this is our pick of Leo Bernal. Braden Neck goes, and then no one else that we were really looking at. So I think this is where we go with Tim Herron, possibly. There is Jaden Hill here from the Rockies org. But I just think we kind of have guys like this. Even though he's a captain, which is cool, I don't love this lefty split rating. I don't think he's ready for the majors. So he's going to be a no. I think let's go with the plan. Let's keep the plan. We're going to go with Tim Herron. And, who knows if he makes it through spring training with us once we get a scouting report back and kind of see how he plays. At 30 years old, he's not so old, but I just think having him unprotected here is a little crazy for them. So we're going to take Tim Herron with our final pick here. And now we'll need that fills up our 40-man, so we'll need to make some moves. We'll need to waive somebody in order to bring on Matt Brash should we sign him. So I'll look to make that move off screen, but let's just finish through the draft here and see who else goes. I'm going to look at the log. We can just go to the end. We're going to skip our pick. We're done here, and then we will just finish out the draft and kind of review it. All right, so not as many rounds as last year. Let's pick up where we left off. So Tim Herron, and then, yeah, okay. So we only lost one guy, Puyu Chen, to the Nationals. And we sort of missed out on Cameron Cawley and Iverson. So I'm pretty bummed about those. But we'll take what we can get. Next, I guess steps will... international free agency isn't too far away, so, just a couple of weeks of game time. So I'll make some roster moves and figure out our 40-man situation, and then I'll come back at the start of IFA free agency and make sure you guys are updated on all of the developments in the meantime. So stay tuned. Okay, guys, we are officially back here at the start of international free agency. A couple of updates before we touch on that, though. The first of which is that, at this point, a couple of weeks ago, sort of in the sim, I realized we were on a 40-man crunch. So I wanted to make some moves, and oh gosh, where is it? We ended up moving off of one of the players that sort of factored in for us last season. So let's just search. Okay, here we go. We ended up trading Jiwon Bae. I know that we had sort of penciled him in as our fourth outfielder, but that was before the Rule 5 draft and before Jacob Melton. So while he's like, definitely a marginally better like contact hitter than Melton is currently. He's never going to have the power that Melton has, and he's also not quite the defender. He doesn't have the arm. He has more versatility, but I don't think he's quite as good in the outfield. So with the selfish personality, like I kind of just wanted to move on from him, and we were able to capitalize on his strong season with us last year with the 1.1 WAR. And, he has one option year left. Chicago was interested, the White Sox. I think that kind of makes sense for them. Like, I could see him getting playing time. So we decided to ship him off, and we brought in Wes Kath, who, you may look at this and just think, like, oh, whatever. And, it is kind of a whatever deal, but he's not on the 40-man, so that's partially why we did it. And we kind of have a shortage of, like, upper minors first baseman, and he's honestly not the worst. He's definitely going to strike out, but his stat line last year was decent, and a limited sample at AAA, but his AA numbers are also quite good. So I don't know that Wes Kath ever plays for us, but he'll at the very least be able to hold down first base at AAA or wherever we choose to have him. So I just wanted to do that to open up the 40 slot because we still have not signed Matt Brash. He keeps coming back to us with, we offer him a deal. He goes out, he seeks better value, and then he comes back, and then we offer him a new deal. So he's currently considering our most recent offer, but we still have not heard back from him. So, nothing too much else has happened. We got progress reports on our dev lab, so everyone is frustrated, which is not good. There are a couple on track. Sanford and Turley are on track. Termar is struggling with the bat speed, and Bubba Chandler is on track to improve his secondary pitch. But everyone else is kind of frustrated, so we're not quite seeing the same luck we had last year, at least in terms of like excelling programs, but I guess we'll stay tuned for what those results end up being just in a couple of weeks here. The last thing, now we're in the preseason. I decided to, we're approaching the preseason. I decided to revisit our ticket prices, and I was able to cook up like a discounted ticket price that increases our season tickets by 11%. And of course, our projected attendance is also up nearly 30%, and our revenue per game is up 30%. So actually dropping the ticket prices here, I think the season tickets alone would be cause to do this, but I think we can project, similar to last season, the fan interest will dwindle as the season progresses. So we're trying to kind of preempt that with like a strong opening of the year. So just a little bit of like front office strategy, I guess, there. But international free agency is here. I went over our limitations previously. We are not allowed to sign anyone over $400,000. So that's what we have filtered here. We have players demanding $600K or less, and we're going to try to just, come in right at the $400K mark on a couple of these guys and try to bring them in. So we don't have a ton of money budgeted to this either. I only have $2 million, so that would be, 5 players at $400K flat. I don't know that we'll sign 5, but maybe we will. There are a couple of good options here, and I'm not going to run through all of them. I may just wrap up like the first couple and then, try to sign them and then come back when we have everyone. But, this guy's interesting, a switch outfielder, good personality traits, 55 potential grade. We think he could have good gap power, and he's not going to strike out a ton. So as long as the BABIP kind of maintains, Gabe Ariano could be interesting, medium dev risk. You kind of just like everything here. And then similar situation with Raul Mercado, just good personality. He's not quite the same fielder, but you love the avoid K in contact. Line drive hitter, medium dev risk. So both of those guys I think we're for sure going to go after. And then Raul Oliveros is, a little more extreme on the risk, but another switch hitter who we just think can be solid across the board with a good work ethic. I think he's worth bringing in. And Rafael Cano, this sort of wraps up the for sure guys I'm going to go after. So these 4. In terms of pitching, we think there's more velo to tap into. While nothing is dominant, I like that he's a 4-pitch mix guy, and there's not many pitchers available in this market. So I think he's probably the best available. There is one other guy down here, David Ruiz, who is good at keeping the ball in the park, but he has much less velo. And while he does have a high work ethic, we don't project the stuff to ever really be there. So I kind of like the other pitcher more. And then there are a couple guys in this, 45 grade range we like. If we think we're going to try to bring on these 4, it's no guarantee we get Ariano because he wants slightly over 400K, but we're hoping the strong relationship allows us to lowball him slightly with the low league interest. But if we're looking for one more addition in this 45 range, there are a couple options. Hector De Leon, I think, is maybe my favorite just because you love the measurables of a 6'5" outfielder who, feasibly has more pop to pull it, tap into. So that it's a lot of outfielders, right? If you think about the top 3 guys also all being outfielders. So we may switch it up. There's another one here, Donatello Gardia. He's fine. I don't like him better than the other guys, though. Sjord Nijin. This guy is interesting if we want a middle infield type because, he's not going to strike out. However, he is fragile, but the Dutch shortstop might be the pick just to kind of switch things up. But there's one other guy here I'm interested in, too, and that is Cesar Madrid, who's a 6'1" lefty first baseman who, we just don't have a ton of first base, in our system, and he's durable. He might be okay. I kind of just want him for the diversity of position, to add to first base in our system. So those are kind of the guys I'm thinking about. I don't think anyone else here is really worth touching on. So I was looking for catcher too, but there's not really much in terms of catching in this that interests me. I'm not going to tap into 35 grade guys, but we'll look to wrap up these top 4 here. Hopefully we can sign them, and then, we may go for both of these guys. I'm kind of undecided, but I'll come back once we do all of that, and, if there's any big news in the meantime, I'll let you know. But next time I see you will probably be the Hall of Fame results, or, like I said, if anything happens before then, I'll jump back. Okay, y'all, quick update here. We're at the Hall of Fame results that I want to show shortly, but we've signed 3 guys so far in the IFA pool, first of which is Cesar Madrid, the first baseman we went over. Just solid all around lefty first baseman. Hector De Leon, we did end up offering him, just love the measurables, 6'5", 200-pound corner outfielder. With good speed. And then the top guy on our board, Gabe Ariano, the switch hitting 55 grade outfielder with a good work ethic leader. We were able to get him for right on 400K. So just exactly on budget. 2 other guys we're currently still competing for. We have pending offers out to, I guess 3 guys, sorry. But the pitcher, Cano, and then 2 more outfielders that we view pretty highly. I'm really hoping to get Mercado as well, just because the 55 grade. But let's get to the Hall of Fame results. See who makes it. And Andrew Jones, in his 10th season, actually finally makes it. So that's funny. Buster Posey does not, no one else makes it, but some good showings and a couple of first years. Do we want to turn any of these players into coaches? That is the question now. I'm pretty sure we already made Dustin Pedroia a coach. I don't know if I could see anyone else being a coach here. I mean, we could turn Buster Posey into a GM. I don't know that that's like factored into this at all, so maybe we do that actually, just for the fun. So we'll turn him into a coach. Anyway, I'm going to keep this moving. We have spring training approaching in about a month. We did get one bit of news where Matt Brash signed on. So we've got him for the next 2 seasons. We're on the OSA scouting, but we view him a lot higher. 2 years, $3.5 million per season. He'll slide into a setup role for us. Just love the stuff he brings. Not very popular, but super happy to have him holding down the high leverage innings of our bullpen. So now we are looking pretty stacked. We have Ferguson and Brash, and then Abreu at the closer role. Adam, we'll see if he his spot is sort of pending performance in spring. I'm not willing to commit to him just yet. But then we also have Tim Herron here as the lefty specialist, who we now have very high scouting accuracy on, and we love what we see here. So as long as he's not walking the yard, it's likely he stays on. But yeah, I'll be back in, I guess, 2 to 3 weeks of game time once we are at spring training, and we can, pray for good dev lab results. If anything major happens in between then, I'll be sure to pop on. Okay, y'all, we are back at the start of spring training, which means we are one simulation away from seeing the results of our development lab. I haven't taken a peek yet at how anyone is pacing, so it's going to be my genuine reaction to the results. You're going to, see it live with me. I don't know what to expect, so that'll be exciting. But before we get to that, I wanted to kind of recap where we ended at with the IFA strategy, and then look at signings across the league as a whole to kind of see how teams have reshaped. And then we'll finally meet our team that we're bringing into spring training with us, and then we will get to the development lab, so I'm going to make you wait for it just a bit. But in terms of our IFA strategy, everything pretty much went according to plan. If we just scroll back to sort of the, Hall of Fame results was the last time we checked in, but let's see, who signed. We got De Leon, we got Ariano, we went over both of those. We ended up scouting Ariano further, and we see him now as a 60 grade potential. So this is looking like a major steal for us at just $400K. We think there's a bunch of gap power to tap into. So even though we were handcuffed by our budget, we were able to at least find him. Let's see who else. We ended up getting Oliveros as well, who we view as a 50 grade guy. Still extreme volatility with him. And Rafael Cano, the pitcher, as well. Only a 45 grade, but good measurables, 4-pitch mix. You never know. I think there's maybe even one more. Raul Mercado was going back and forth, but he eventually ended up signing, and we view him very highly as well with a 55 grade. So we were able to add a bunch of outfielders to our system, and we ended up not signing the Dutch guy, Nijin. He ended up going for slightly more than what we were able to put out there, so we didn't get him. Our total IFA signing was 2.4 mil, minus a bit. So we're still in the positive here. This number will change once we cut down the rosters at spring training, but I'm trying to leave us some wiggle room because we currently have 16 mil allocated to the draft. As you know, we picked number 1, so it's feasible we could spend close to 20 mil in draft picks this year. If the first guy, wants like 14 or 15, and then in the second round, if we decide to go overslot by like 4 or 5 mil, it could add up quickly. So I'm trying to bake that in a bit with our budget this year and leave a little bit more in the available tank than I would otherwise. But let's look at the transactions kind of across the league here. We'll scroll all the way back to the beginning and kind of go as we went, or as time went. But Luke Weaver got paid as if he were a starter by our division rival Cardinals. So 3 years, 14.5 mil. Don't know what they're planning there. Tyler O'Neill, big deal, 78 mil to go to Detroit. Camilo Doval goes to Boston on an affordable deal, and so does Sonny Gray on a less affordable deal. 3 years for the 37-year-old to go there. Chris Sale re-ups with Atlanta for 2 years. And Victor Robles signs a 5-year deal to also go to Detroit. So Detroit is beefing up their outfielders. Kershaw goes to Toronto, and Shane Bieber to the Cubs. Daniel Espino, the fragile, always injured pitcher, signs a deal with the Padres. So that's interesting, I guess. Atlanta brings in J.P. Crawford on a minor deal. There's our Brian Abreu signing. Let's see. Cole Sands ends up signing for just $900K. We could have gone after him, I suppose, in hindsight. Seeing how cheap he was, that's a good deal for them. Oh, we lost our place. Oh, gosh. Where were we? Okay, yeah. Nick Castellanos, who we were looking at, ends up getting a 4-year deal. We were never going to do that, so there's just no way. But he goes to Milwaukee, and Jazz goes to the Cubs on a big 5-year deal, although, not as much money as maybe you would think. But they figure out their third base situation with Jazz. And then I don't know that there were any other, super huge deals that happened. Austin Hayes did end up getting near 11 mil also to the Cubs. So the Cubs were really buyers this year. We'll have to watch out for them in our division and see how they do. AJ Puck ends up signing a cheap deal. Honestly, we should have gone after him at that price. I didn't realize how affordable it was. But we still like Ferguson, I suppose, as our back-end lefty. We're just going to deal with having him. Gosh, George Springer, how old is he? 37? And he's getting 40 mil from the Angels? Goodness. Adolis gets 2 years. That's, I think, more money than we were comfortable giving him. But let's speed through it. Let's look for any other big deal. Oh, Triolo to the Dodgers. He gets paid, so good on him. Justin Steele signs a discounted deal. Taylor Ward, 33 mil to return to the Angels, and 35 mil for Max Muncy to go to Tampa on a 2-year deal. So that's interesting. Okay, here we go. The big fish. Alec Boehm to Colorado. That's interesting. I bet he'll play well there. And then Gavin Lux also to the Cubs. What are the Cubs doing? They're turning over their whole roster. Chapman returns to Boston, now a year removed. So that's a wrap on the league as a whole. We weren't super active this year, but I think we made smart moves around the edges to improve our team. So this is how we're going into spring training. Starting rotation is staying the same. I hope that everyone can stay healthy. We've set an aggressive starter pitch count in our strategy to hopefully prevent guys from being stretched too long, although the CPU usually does a pretty good job of pulling them. We're only running 19. I just looked at our org. I didn't think that there was anyone else worth calling up, really. So, the back end is, how we expect it to look. We're giving Adam a shot there just to kind of see how he does. In the middle, where we have Superman Skylar Hales, our return in the Dennis Santana trade. making his debut. I still don't know that he's quite ready at a 40, but I look forward to what he brings in spring training. Lisler Sosa, who is just on a minor league, major league deal, but he's on the 40. We're going to bring him up, big stuff, just 25, kind of in a similar situation to Hales, honestly. Then we have Burrows and Ashcraft there. Long relief, we're running Majinski and Oviedo. Majinski is kind of in the danger zone, if we're being honest. Like, it's possible he gets sent down pending his performance. And then our string of lefties here, I would say Tim Herron is the easy leader to hold this role down, but we also have Rogers and Barco and the newly called up Jaden Woods, who we're optimistic on his stuff being plus, but so at 25 want to get him some run here. The big 6'2" lefty out of the University of Georgia. I kind of don't mind him. So if he turns into something, I won't be mad. But this is our, how we have it set up. We'll, hope for no injuries. Anthony Solometo did come back off of injured reserve. He was on Tommy John, or he had Tommy John rather, and I just waived and DFA'd him and put him back in AAA because he's now fragile, and it's like his ceiling is limited. He's lost a tick of velocity. Maybe he builds back up. He's still 24, but I don't think we are putting any expectations on him. Lineup wise, this is sort of what we're carrying in. You can see here we go Horwitz Gonzalez, who's fully back now, although he is fragile, which is concerning. I don't love that, but I honestly you can't blame it with this injury history. It's really starting to stack up for him. So, we're hoping for the best there. O'Neal Cruz and then Davis cleanup as DH. Mullins, Reynolds, Termar is going to get run at third. He doesn't know it at all, but we're hopeful that his infield range and arm are able to pull it off. And then Endy is the everyday catcher. Piguero is our shortstop. And then the only change is that against lefties is that we're protecting Termar a bit and giving Cabrian Hayes reps there, just so he doesn't get super upset with us because he still wants to be in the starting lineup. And this is the best way I could think of to use him without totally casting him aside. But other players we're bringing in, you think of why did we bring on Leo Bernal at all? But if Davis is going to DH full time, I don't really want him catching. So you think you have Omar Alfonso, the number 44 prospect in baseball. And I just wasn't comfortable bringing him up just yet, y'all. Even though he is 23 and a half, first, he's a lefty bat. We have a surplus of lefties right now. And he's never played above the AA level. And he really struggled in the fall league, OPSing 500. I didn't want to bank on him being our backup catcher, day one. I want to give him run in AAA first, and, hopefully the bat comes along a bit there. I just want to see him prove it out a little bit more before committing him, time to him. But he is a good defender, and, I do look forward to having him catch for us, many years down the line. But for now, no. We want Bernal and Rodriguez there. Nick Samillo is still here in first base. It's just a backup, but middle infield, we're running Brannigan and Sungzi, and Ronnie Simon is still floating around here. It's his last option here on the team, but I kind of view him as the backup DH. Should anything happen, we may bring him up again. Mitch Jebb makes his debut on the 40-man this year. It's finally his time for the 24-year-old. Just kind of a contact, slap it around. But again, another lefty, so I'm not dying to have him on the team just yet. In the outfield, we have Antunez in the corner. Jace Bowen makes it in the corner as well. He also has first base versatility, so with a good personality, I don't mind him should the bat come along a little bit, but I don't think he makes the team. I'm just, glad to have him as depth. Barossa is also here. I don't think he makes the team either. I think he's kind of the first outfielder we would call up in the event of a major injury. And then, of course, Jacob Melton, our Rule 5 pick, who we're hopeful can hit some dingers for us and build off of his strong AAA season last year where he had a 134 WRC+. So that's the team we're bringing into spring. Next video, we're going to start, I'll simulate through all of spring off cam, and next video we'll begin at the roster cut down portion of the season, and kind of we'll review the stats and any injuries that may happen and make decisions based on performance to cut back the roster. But I think we've made it finally to the end. I've made you guys wait long enough for the player dev results. Let's get into it and see what we have here. We're hoping for, positivity across the board, but let's find out. I'm seeing a poor program, but okay, it's not terrible. No improvement for O'Neal Cruz. So, we tried to improve the two-strike approach. Didn't quite happen for him. Not the worst thing. Bubba Chandler, potential slider stuff and current slider stuff both improved. So, not enough to bump it up a full, grade. It's not like suddenly 60, but just marginal improvement there, I suppose. So not the best result, honestly. He's dropped to a 45 now, which is really tough, and he's lost his stamina now. I hope Bubba can turn it around, you guys. I was really hoping that he would be like a cornerstone of our playthrough, and now we're seeing the home run. He's lost so much of his movement too. What is going on with this dev strategy? He's up and down across the board. I'll need to revisit this off cam and figure out how we can get Bubba back on track, because he's really struggling. So now we have a potential strikeout issue with Termar, although I don't think it was too detrimental because this was already a very plus attribute for him. But it looks like he lost a little bit of his eye potential as well. Okay, we do see him as a 55 grade at third, though, with 1 game under his belt. So, moving him there has changed his potential rating from a 60 down to a 55 because he's not quite the defender he is in left field. But for a poor result, it's not honestly the worst we could have seen. I mean, obviously it's bad, but we don't mind it. Thomas Harrington, still not, with these successful programs, you would think that the current rating would improve more, but okay. At the very least, he now has 2 average pitches. Previously, everything was 45 except for the fastball, so now he's at least a little bit plus in a couple of his offerings, so he should be, it doesn't really play out here at all, but it can only help, right? Obviously 2 average pitches are better than 1. It's double the amount. Quentin Young struggles again, no improvement here. So that's 2 consecutive years of just no improvement. And we see him down to a 50 now. That's regressed again, down from a 55. So his gap rating did improve, I guess. It's just the shortstop dream is never going to be there, obviously. So he is full on third base now. So I'm hoping for a good season out of him at rookie ball, where he ought to be able to mash with these ratings and then get pushed to the Florida League in A ball. So we'll fingers crossed. I still want him to pan out. Did he even grow? Am I making that up? Wasn't he 6'5" and now he's 6'6"? Do players grow in this game? I actually don't even know. Okay, this is awesome. Current BABIP improves by 5 for Connor Griffin. So the concern with him last year was he hit 200 at A-ball, which is obviously not ideal. High A, rather, sorry. So this is a big jump for him to where the contact tool is going to be right on league average. So I think we still start him out at high A for just maybe the first month or 2 of the season. If he's looking good, then he can go to the Eastern League, but still he's kind of raw for that. The power is certainly there, but I would hopefully he develops quickly, but still, for the number 2 prospect in baseball, I hope he stays there. Alex Harrington, no contact improvement either. He's really fallen in the eyes of AJ Preller, the totally different scout, right? But The bottom is kind of like fallen out for him in his bat. All these hit tool grades are just so much lower than we saw when we drafted him. The defense is still there, thankfully. So like, oof, it's kind of tough. But it's also like, who do you believe? Do you believe AJ Preller or do you believe Brody, our former scout? Gavin Turley was not able to improve his two-strike performance, so bit tough there. He's at like 23. He's honestly pushing for, maybe not a major league call-up this year, but I'm looking ahead to next year. Like, he could get up, and I think he can play at Double-A this year, so we'll have to redo our whole minor league system off camera too and kind of sign depth across all of those levels. But, you hope he continues his run so far. 3.9 WAR at A-ball, 1.9 WAR at high A. Like, Gavin Turley can still play despite the no improvement here. And Wyatt Sanford improves his current gap rating by 5, so that's a big deal for him. He's really come along. I don't know where he fits in at the major league level just yet, but like, he's knocking on the door as well, being at 40 already. Like, it's feasible he could be a September call-up at this point. Like, he's ready to crush the Double-A level. He hasn't played there yet, so this is probably where we're going to start him. And, like, goodness, he's going to dominate with these ratings. It's going to be awesome. And then Triple-A, he can compete there as well, but I just want him to get some Double-A reps first. And then we're looking at a fast track here with this, personality. We'll have to figure out where he slots in, but, another lefty, it's going to be hard to find room for him. And then, nice, we get improvement with Zane Petty's pitches here, marginal improvements to his changeup, which is his worst pitch, I guess, so that's interesting. But he's now profiled as a ground baller, so that's cool. At the high A level, yeah, we were looking for, like, improvement in the slider curve to give him like 2 average pitches or above, but we'll take a improvement with the changeup. I still think he could play at Double-A this year, and we'll kind of see how he does. At this point, he is 23, so you kind of want to start pushing him a little more aggressively now. But that's a wrap on the initial results of the Dev Lab, so we'll make sure to load new guys in there and then progress along with the rest of spring training. But I know it's been quite the episode. Hopefully you guys are excited for our next season here. Let me know how we did. What moves did you like? What moves did you hate? But as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate your support on these videos. If you made it this far, I would love a like. That would, mean the world to me. So anyways, I'll sign off and I'll be back in the next few days with the kickoff of year 2027. So I look forward to seeing you back, and thanks for watching.